Please leave your message for 40.
Hamilton Souther, this is Jerry at TOOWi Media. Hey, you just showed up. What's going on, dude?
How are you doing?
Doing good, man. I was just giving you a buzz on the old Google Hangouts.
How's Google Hangouts these days?
I never use it. Today we deep dive the life story of Hamilton Souther, a man who heard a call to live and train with shamans in the Amazon after the death of his best friend. Okay, strap in, folks, and prepare to hear a story about reaching for the mystical and finding destiny. Phones add up, little things like that, you know?
Everything adds up.
It all adds up. So.
It all adds up. Yeah, it's pretty brutal.
Hamilton Souther, welcome to Pioneers of Insight.
Thank you. It's an honor.
So you're balancing a number of different roles: co-founder, maestro, master shaman. Some of the roles our audience might not even be familiar with. Can you give us a sense of how you see what you do every day?
I think the role is mostly leadership and being willing to accept the responsibility of that leadership. Having many different titles and wearing many different hats has been something of choice. It wasn't something that was forced upon me in any way. It was something that I looked towards. After gaining my first titles, I looked at what else I could continue to do, and with them came titles, not the desire for the title itself. So when I wanted to learn shamanism, it wasn't to become a master shaman, it was to learn shamanism. And then after I learned enough shamanism that other people considered me a master shaman, they gave me that title. You know, and so it was just a desire to do that. And like today, it just went straight into meetings, and in this case, we're launching projects. So it was about pitch decks, which is its own kind of language, and
its own kind of monster.
Yeah, it's for sure. It's a really interesting field in its own right. Like how to get a really big idea into as simple words and icons as possible for the most people to really be able to understand the value of the idea. And there's about meetings about that, and then meetings about different kinds of legal documents, meetings about our future direction and what's necessary to launch our projects. And it's pretty mundane in its own right, and then it led right into this conversation with you. But it's the importance of every little step, every piece of the projects, like I say, that drive that comes from within, the willingness to put your totality into it all the time, even when it gets hard. Just you suck it up.
Right. Might even be hard right now. The question was how you see yourself showing up. You said leader. And when you started talking about that, it sounded like you were starting to talk about how can I listen to myself to move myself forward in this journey. Then you moved to this place where you started to talk about your immediate positions that you're balancing. There's still a number of things swirling around you. Sounds like a little bit of a shitstorm, but there's still this guy in there, Hamilton, that's saying, I got to make contact with what I want as I do the hard things. What do you think it was about you at a young age that had that light on that could turn to yourself and say, what do you really want?
That goes into the mentorship of boundaries and limitations. I just think at a young age, I wasn't presented them. I was presented what was safe or what you could expect to be done, but there was never any question of there being a limitation. And I think I grew up at a period of time where people were pushing the boundaries in lots of different frontiers, and that was really inspiring.
What time frame are you referencing here?
From the 80s to the 90s to the early 2000s.
The first living, breathing clone.
This is IMAX. The whole thing.
I've revealed nearly all 3 billion letters.
It's about just 3 decades, really, of a period of time where all of a sudden technologies were matching the imagination. And in my own case, it didn't really matter which field I was in. That was a field that I wanted to push the frontiers in. When I was growing up, my father was a doctor, and he was very honest about what they knew and didn't know inside their fields and in their practice, and what they were looking to achieve and also continued to discover. So there was this question of innovation and pioneering that was always part of the discussion. So it's like, okay, here we are today, but where are we going to be tomorrow? And it was always future thinking based on an understanding of a continuation and a kind of evolutionary flow of the nature of the mind and innovation in its own right. And so that was, I think, an underpinning always of my childhood, and a willingness to try to push that boundary both physically and mentally and emotionally at the same time.
Well, we could call that curiosity that leads to freedom, right? So you had that at an early age. But it sounds like you're referencing a culture of mentors too. Like you're part of a package, and you were unwrapping it early, is what I hear. Maybe perhaps some of what you're referencing is the attitude of your family, right? Like that allowed you to do that.
Very much so, yeah, absolutely. And the idea that mentorship led to future development. I think we were always based in an idea of learning, and that learning was something that should come naturally to our own existence, and that there wasn't a limit or a cutoff point about that either.
Did you get a direct message on that when you were younger? Like, Hamilton Souther, you can be anything you want to be, or, like one of those kind of things.
It's not exactly like that, but more like if you apply yourself, you can actually learn and transform. And so it wasn't so dreamy, but it was more very practical. I was an athlete, and so it was about incremental bettering of a certain kind of skill or capacity. And I was also expected to do well in school scholastically. So it was always about personal performance and just about what you could do. And there was a term growing up that was used called mastering the material. It wasn't test performance, it was mastery of the material. So I was taught that if you master the material, you should be able to get an A on a test. The test is no big deal because you've mastered the material. But also this idea that that wasn't the end point. That wasn't even the beginning. It was just a frontier that was going to be added on the next day, or was something that could ultimately be pushed to pioneer beyond the field that you found yourself in.
So there's this culture of mentors. It starts with your family. Sounds like they're speaking in the language of expectations, but you're also getting a sense of possibility. And I hear at the center of it, there's this sort of humility too. It's not about achieving to meet a mark. It's not about achieving to jump over the next bar. It's about, what was the term that you used?
Master the material.
Mastering the material. So I hear at the center of your mentorship process as a young man is there's also a clear communication about humility in it. All right. So where did it all maybe start to come apart for you? I hear a pretty together young man already. Where is that moment where you kind of get a sense of, I like who I am, but I want more? Where does that come in?
I was running some errands downtown. I had ridden my bike from my family's house. I was 13 years old. And I stopped in at a comic book shop. I was just kind of going in and checking out what was there. And I remember somebody outside around my age fiddling around my bike. I didn't pay much attention to it. My bike was locked up, so I didn't really think anything of it. But what it turned out is the person had done a practical joke and had undone the quick release on the front tire of my mouth. I didn't know. And so when I rode off, I was kind of weaving around some people, and I went off a curb, and the front tire just came right out of the bike. And so I went straight over the bars onto my head and my face. And I was instantly knocked unconscious. The next thing I remember was that I was on some front steps of a building, and I remember feeling my face, and my face didn't feel the right size. And I knew something was desperately wrong. And then I remember looking down at my hands, and they were just completely covered in blood, and then I blacked out again. And then the next thing I remember was an IV being put in my arm, and then blacking out again. And then the next thing I remember, I was being prepped for surgery. It turned out that at that hospital, they were understaffed that day in emergency. And so my dad got special operating privileges at the hospital. My mom was a nurse, and so she knew how to be able to assist surgery. And so it was actually my family who did the surgery to repair my face. So I went into about 4.5 to 5 hours of surgery in the operating room for reconstructive surgery. And then later that night I was taken home. That was it. I was put in my my parents' bed, and then they observed me overnight. Then my memory started to come back over a period of about 3 months, and it took probably of that 3 months, 6 weeks to get 80 or 90% of it back.
Curious, ambitious, pretty centered and grounded person comes to a screaming halt, loses a total sense of self through an accident. You're no longer there. You're literally no longer there. Why do you think you reference that as a catalyst moment?
I think it's the first moment that really changed sort of a general direction and course in my thinking. You know, after that, I lost about 80 to 90% of all my childhood memories. And so it changed my fundamental awareness of my identity at about 13 years old.
You're coming out having, spent a life building a story, and you make an early exit, and you have to learn what it takes to rebuild a story. At 13, maybe some people don't learn how to do that in a lifetime, but that's what you were doing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to figure out what that meant to junior high school.
Right.
Yeah.
Like it's easy.
Like clicks and stuff on the playground.
Right.
And like trying to understand just as like what algebra is, right? Yeah, I think that was formative in that way. And it also showed me that there was a fundamental break in the continuity of the development of that mind.
It's a lesson in continuity already.
Already, for sure.
We will grow and grow and grow, grow and grow apart, till we feel the same way that we both felt at the start. While we grow and while we grow apart, I will learn my lesson, keep my head above my heart.
Literally, I could think a week or a week and a half after the accident, I was asked to take a math exam on math that I had never studied. And I got 100% on the exam, and I knew how to do all the math, but I could barely remember my name at that time.
So Hamilton Souther, stable family, curious, open to possibilities, wipes out from a practical joke, great fucking practical joke, but probably a great gift at the same time.
Yeah.
You find yourself in a hospital in a massive recovery, and it's a curious story because it's not only you moving through this experience, it's your family opening the gate at the same time, becoming part of it, right? Yeah. So you experience this reality on the other side, which is I don't have much of my old story, but somehow I'm still here, and I see there's continuity. In addition to it, you're looking at this at life in an entirely new way. You have an experience that's what we would call an out-of-the-box experience that points you to maybe a model of reality that you hadn't had before it. What's interesting is your family's all involved in this at the same time, and you come from a family of doctors. So that's the first catalyst moment. That's a huge fucking catalyst moment. What's the other one?
In my year first out of college, I had graduated with a degree in anthropology.
Where'd you go to school?
University of Colorado at Boulder. Yeah, I mean, I was, searching for what I was going to do after college. And, I wasn't really sure the direction that my life should really take. I had thought I knew, and that had changed dramatically right before I had graduated.
What's up with the shift? Like, what do you think triggered the, oh shit moment? Suddenly I don't know who I am and what I am and what I need something more.
In my case, it was a death of a really close friend. We were going to be doing different kinds of business together after I had graduated. He was a very close mentor. He died of a heart attack in my senior year of college, literally 2 months before I graduated. So the life that I had prepared in college during that period of time to move forward with just vanished in his death. My desires and my thoughts about direction changed. My thoughts about time changed, and also, kind of what a career is also changed all at the same time, because his career came to an end in his death, as well as his relationship to his family that I was unbelievably close with. Mm-hmm. And then when I looked at the rest of the world at that time, I had a very limited vision, obviously, being in my early 20s and just graduating from school. But for what I understood of the world at that time, I didn't really see a direction or a focus that had a lot of meaning for me, that didn't also require going back and getting a new education. And so all of those things led me to sort of a quest for a question of a deeper meaning, and a question of really around why, not just why in terms of what we do, but why around existence itself.
So there you are for the second time. You're having this story ripped away from you, right? This time you had wrapped your story around another person. That person was kind of a totem for what you wanted to do. And you're saying, here's where my journey into shamanism started. Where the hell did that come from?
Well, I mean, ultimately it came from my mom through a discussion that I had with her. And it was an opportunity for her to share with me, you know, something that she understood more about life at that time. She, through her own life, had sort of opened up to the idea of spirit. And it was something that was foreign to me. It wasn't something that I was comfortable with at that time. It was outside my frame of reference. I had heard about different terms and, you know, associated with it in terms of cultural ethnographies that I had read in anthropological classes that talked about the shamanic and this otherworldliness that could also be experienced here. And I myself was looking for something that really was outside the box. The box was feeling very confining at that time. School really looked to me like an opportunity to try to, again, achieve the mastery of why I was there in the first place. And I didn't really have an idea for where it was supposed to lead, because I was studying anthropology. So when people would ask me all the time, what are you going to do with that? You know?
Right.
You're like, it wasn't like it was going. I was like, oh, I have a really clear direction here. I'm going to go be a rocket engineer, and that's going to sort of, so I was, you know, studying something that was already outside of that directional box, but doing well really was important to me.
So you're in the game of mastery at that time. It sounds like you've always been.
Yeah, I don't think that ever changed. Really,
but do you get what I'm talking about too? I think I'm hearing something in you that's slightly different than the track that you're going on in the moment. It's not about mastering the thing. It's about the mastery part. Like, I hear a person that has an approach to life that's like, whatever it is, how do I engage the best of myself at it?
Absolutely. Yeah. To be able to do it at the best of the ability, whatever that is, literally as simple as, you know, taking a core out of an apple, to screwing in a bolt, to changing a bicycle tire, to
you were that guy
reading a book.
Yep.
Literally anything. I mean, baking chocolate chip cookies, literally anything. It didn't matter.
So you're ready for launch at this point where your friend dips out of the picture.
Yeah, completely. I mean, that launch moment.
Okay, so let me take you back real quick. Your mom steps forward and is like, well, then go follow spirit.
Where it happened was in my mom's kitchen in Santa Cruz, California. What it looked like was, I don't know, me having kind of a dark moment, an upset moment, a really not quite depressed moment, but, you know, just down about everything, and really humbled in a kind of difficult way about life itself, and saying that life didn't make any sense, and I didn't know where I was supposed to go, and why am I doing it at all, and what is it all about? And, you know, my mom looks at me and she goes, well, if you don't want to do it anymore like that, give it back to spirit. So I thought to myself that was a really dumb idea. And so I thought, you know, as a great way to prove her wrong, but also to prove my own righteousness and to prove kind of the issue in its own right, that the only way to make it real would be to actually do it and then see that nothing happened, right? It'd be really simple. I'd be like, okay, I'll do that. Now nothing's going to happen. And then when nothing happens, then we can get back to why I'm so upset.
I'll show you so I can get back to my anger.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like really angry. Oh, dude, I had no idea what I was doing. You know, but it was in the spirit of that youthful arrogance and kind of, you know, extreme ignorance.
So you're like, what the fuck, Mom? But there's a part of you like, I'm going to take this. I'll do it. I'll show you. So you take up the gauntlet.
Yeah, I took the message, right? The message was there. It was clear. It was a challenge and it was a message.
Yeah, I hear that. You got both of those things. So what's the next step? Do you like go... Well, you didn't have Google at this time.
No, I just turned to the wall, literally. I turned to the wall, window out to the backyard, and just had a moment of authenticity. Okay. For real. I mean, like, that was it. Pretense dropped, and I said, well, if there's a spirit, I'm not joking, so I'm calling for real. the moment I made the change, something snapped inside of me, just like a dam broke, and I felt this outpouring of honesty inside. I had no words. It was just like a depth of inner awareness that ultimately came out with a lot of tears and this huge outpouring of grief and frustration. And I really felt something. I don't know. It's the easiest way to say it. It wasn't like, lightning went off or anything. It was like,
But you're on the path. You feel, something's changed.
Inside me. Yeah, something had changed. And that was it. And that was enough for me to say okay to my mom and mellow out, and leave it at that. And I thought that was it. But, that was literally just the beginning.
So do you go to the phone and call up your nearest shaman in Peru and say, I want to become a shaman? Like, how do you make that leap from this moment of authenticity, get into the flow of, oh, there's some more authentic place for me. Now I'm on a path. I don't know I'm on a path, but I feel something's changed. How do you go from that to a jungle?
Within 24 to 48 hours, I started to see and have visions of spirits. It's not seeing is believing, but seeing something that you absolutely have no frame of reference for makes you question fundamental reality. And in questioning it, I knew that I either had the choice to be considered insane or be totally sane about what I was seeing. That was really scary. First came in dream, and through the dream, I knew I was having a lucid dream and an out-of-body experience, like above my body sleeping. And then I was out of the room and I was in this otherworldly kind of place, very dreamlike, but urban. And I was just walking down the street and I felt like I was being followed, and there were lots of other people around. And then when I turned around, there was this being that was levitating, kind of a Hindu looking guy. And I knew that he was a spirit. Then I left the dream after having met this spirit and awoke in my room. And then I saw a being of light standing in my doorway. The being of light told me that everything was okay and that all of this had been planned and that I was going to be fine, even though I was hyperventilating and really scared about what had been going on. I never had a dream like that. And then the next day I woke up and there were standing at the foot of my bed 3 beings. One was an animal, giant buffalo. The other 2 were humans, but I described it to my mom and she burst into tears, and she recognized the description as a mentor of hers who had passed on, who swore that she would look over the family like a guardian angel. And I had never met her or heard of her before in my life.
So you're confronted with perhaps Hamilton Souther at that point is having his first real encounter with the integrity of the self. What am I going to do with this? Am I going to deny it, or am I going to accept it and kind of allow my curiosity to run with it? Where are you starting to get a sense of how this fits into your life and maybe what you're becoming?
This kicked off a series of experiences that happened really rapid fire. And the first was describing the experiences to other people that then wanted me to read books. And the books were about shamanism and were describing my experiences almost literally to the day that I was having them. And then I was experiencing these phenomena while I was reading the books that was, instead of like learning something, it was as if I was remembering something. And so instead of like reading a book and feeling like I was being confronted with information for the first time and struggling to understand it, it was actually like I was reading the books and awakening to memories of understandings that I already had. And then I could do the things that were in the books literally immediately. And it felt truly like a series of experiences of awakening that was so healthy and desired and really begged for. I felt like I had tapped into something very real and that I was unbelievably fortunate and lucky.
Are you moving to a place where feelings becoming the confirmation? How is Hamilton Souther making sense of this, all that's unfolding for you?
The way I made sense of it was just confirmation and continuous confirming experiences.
Okay.
So I would be thinking that something was happening, and then I would have just these really random experiences where someone else would come up to me and present me a book that they had, and then I'd read the book and the experience I was having would be written about in the book. Or I would meet somebody and they would take a look at me and describe to me exactly what I knew was around me in spirit.
What would you call that for our listeners? What do you call what's happening?
Like a very synchronistic confirmation of my own doubts and questions and confusions at that time.
You're now in this kind of, we could call it, I mean, this is kind of poetic, but you're on a path, you're in a flow.
Yeah.
And you're getting confirmations along the way. You're aware enough to understand what the confirmations are. They're registering, but some register louder than other. What was a big one for you?
I was experiencing a lot of doubt. I had been getting involved in this kind of, spirit stuff and learning some shamanic techniques. I was still in the States. I hadn't gone and trained anywhere yet. And the question was, okay, now what? Where is this going? What am I going to do? And so I did a trance journey, which is as simple as turning on some drumming music that's continuous, that creates theta brainwave states. And you go into a theta trance. And, again, not consuming any substances or anything like that. I just lay down on the living room floor and I went into a very meditative state. So I'm told, you're going to go to Peru and there are these shamans waiting for you and you're going to become a master shaman. And of course I say, no way, this is completely insane. And so, I hear back in the trance, no, you're really going to Peru. And so I come up with, well, I don't have enough money to go to Peru. And so the response is, you're going to go to Travelocity through yahoo.com at 8:30 tonight. And there's going to be a ticket in the whole list of tickets to Peru that's going to be half price. And you're going to buy that ticket. And that ticket will allow you a 90-day stay in Peru. And in 90 days, you're going to find your apprenticeship. Just like that.
And?
So I do it, of course, and of course, there it is. At 8:30 p.m., I go to Travelocity through yahoo.com's travel section, and the tickets are all 800, 900, 800, 900, 800, 900, 30-day stay, 30-day stay. And then there's this one ticket that's $410, and it's a 120-day stay.
Hamilton makes this leap from following the little breadcrumb trail of confirmation. You got faith and trust. You slow down to listen to the guidance, and you end up in the jungle. I'm interested in that transition because we hear a person coming from mainstream America. Take us to what that looks like for you and where maybe things start to get real.
Oh, it got real the moment I got in the Amazon.
I showed up just by coincidence and happenstance, literally on my first flight to Cusco. But it just happened that on that day, that was September 11th, 2001.
This just in, you were looking at obviously a very disturbing live shot there. That is the World Trade Center.
And so I'm in a plane on the way from Lima to Cusco while the Twin Towers get taken down in New York. And then we land and then the airports all get shut down. And, there was a massive transportation strike that day in Cusco. So it was such a emotionally impactful moment for me, and for the whole nation of the United States and then the world. I think it was a massive point of change. So there was this little guy, probably 4'8" tall, maybe, like really little Andean mountain guy, really thin and completely drunk, like completely inebriated on any number of substances, but especially for sure alcohol. And he was right outside of the airport. And he insisted that I move my luggage on his little 3-wheel tricycle. And so he literally wouldn't go away. And he finally convinced me to go with him. And at the same time, I met this very young British couple that had just graduated from high school that were traveling the world between high school and uni. And they couldn't speak Spanish and I could speak a little Spanish and they didn't know what was going on. And so I tried to explain to them what was happening. And they agreed to put their luggage on with mine and that we would all walk together. And then we finally got to the center of town newspaper reporter took our picture and we ended up in the Cusco news. So, tourists have to walk to, the center of town because of transportation strike. And then that evening, I was standing on the balcony of this old colonial building that was really close to the center of town where there was a hostel. And I was just staying in a very small hostel. And the guy was standing out in front of my room, staring up at me, smoking a cigarette in the street. And it was nighttime. The little guy who helped organize the luggage. And so out of nowhere, it popped into my head to yell down to him from the balcony, "Hey, do you know a shaman I'm supposed to go meet?" And he yells back up to me, "Yeah, I'm going to take you to him tomorrow at 1 p.m. And that was it.
So let's put a pin in the map. Big leap in chaos. You get there. Desire is there. There's openness and the will to take action. There's people coming forward. You're moving forward. And there's also this kind of instinct. There's a personal experience and there's something bigger than you. And you're tracking both.
Absolutely.
Right? What happened next?
Well, he showed up the next day at 1 o'clock. On the way, he stopped. He went and got moonshine. He picked up some other stuff. He was smoking that on the way. I was not participating. I was just completely going, just observing. It's like, okay, where are we going? Is he leading me to some terrible place or is he leading me someplace good? And pretty soon we were at an archaeological site and there was a gentleman there and the gentleman was with 2 European tourists. He was an Andean, Cusco looking person. I was introduced. He pointed to this big stone. It's a stone that casts the shadow of a jaguar on the wall behind it at a very specific time in the solstice. And then says, "Anda trabajar la piedra." Go work the stone.
What are you doing with the scientists? You're in the flow of this process. I hear that there's a lot of faith and trust that you're investing in it. Was there the curiosity poking through at the time? Like, how do you guys know to ask this stuff? And how did you know to take me here? Or were you just like, just shut the F up and keep going?
Well, as soon as we got to the guy that looked like the shaman, I thought we were okay. It took a long time to get to him. I mean, I don't remember how long, but it was a good hour walk or more. I'm hoping there's going to be someone on the other end of it, not banditos with knives and guns or something. And the guy's getting like more and more wasted. I mean, like he was completely off his face. So I was really going on faith. And then when I was told to work the stone, thought to myself was just something happened. If you were at that time a religious person, I would have been in what they call prayer and begging. Just something happened, right? Yeah. And I went up to the stone. I put my hands on it. It's 20 feet high. The wind blew, and then the sun poked right through the clouds and hit the rock. And so I did like a, 10-minute meditation maybe, and then I came back out of it, and I walked over to the shaman. He just said, "Walk with me."
At this stone, something you're saying, maybe even imperceivable to others, happens. So you're still exercising faith. What would you say changed for you, like up into that moment?
A kind of gratitude, I think, really came forward at that time. Like that feeling, and really feeling deep inside that there was a connection and it wasn't just a wild goose chase. We spent 2 weeks together from that day. Concept of learning would be like, one day we walked to these 2 buried stones. And the shaman tells me to meditate on that stone. And I close my eyes and I go into meditation and all of a sudden just transported into outer space. And then I come out of the meditation and I just look at the shaman and I say, "Outer space." And he says, "Yes." And then he has me stand on a stone 2 feet away from it. And I stand on that stone and close my eyes. And all of a sudden I'm transported to a place that looks like the plains of Africa. And then I tell him Africa, elephants, lions, and giraffes. And he just says yes. And then he walks me about half an hour through the mountains to a temple where there are carvings of elephant heads. And there are no elephants indigenous to South America. And so that was a learning.
So I'm imagining this moment for you. You know those scenes in those cartoons where people like open Alibaba or whatever, you know, like the gates open for you. You're walking into the jungle, but now you're actually with a physical human being who's actually a shaman who put you through some sort of test. And they're like, you get a thumbs up and you're going into the jungle.
The journey unfolded over the course of a couple months. We went out into the jungle, you know, kind of on the Amazon River on this big river boat, now modern with a, you know, huge diesel Caterpillar engine, but still flat bottomed and 3 stories tall. The only difference is the lack of the water wheel, you know. Been spending the night on the riverboat, then long dugout with a small outboard motor on it, another 3 hours into the jungle. We had passed the Mutses, indigenous people that have palm bark out of their face like jaguar whiskers. And then we went another half an hour to 45 minutes deeper along the river into the jungle. And so by that point, we had literally reached the end of inhabitants. So we camped there. We had picked up an ayahuasca shaman that the guide knew along the way. Got up early, everyone gets up really early in the jungle, and then they cook on open fire, and so we had a breakfast, and then we walked into the jungle, just walked right in with a machete, and he knew where to go, and went and collected vine and went and collected leaves. And so he went down and found a local family and borrowed a big pot. Came back, he made a hearth out of nothing, out of the jungle itself, right there, out of a couple of logs. And he lit the wood on fire, pot on the log, walked down to the river, walked back, poured it in the pot. And he just boiled this tea all day long. He was just very quiet and to himself. He smoked jungle tobacco all day long. He had a truly different energy.
So here you are, this white guy in the middle of the jungle. You're seeking perhaps the most powerful experience known to man, other than, you know, death. None of that played with any resistance or tension at the time.
He knew what was coming. I didn't. I thought that the reports and what I had read from the experience could not possibly have been as intense as the way that people described. They had to have embellished it a little bit. So I just thought that. So
self-soothing.
Yeah, for sure. Darkness came, and the shaman sat on the tarp. And so he serves me the ayahuasca. He sings into the cup. He blows mapacho smoke on it. And I drink the ayahuasca. The shaman starts playing the leaf rattle. And I start to see the entire jungle around me, of which I can see probably 50 meters to 100 meters in every direction, including across the river, all become pixelated and all start pulsing with the shaman's shakafa. And I think to myself, if this doesn't get any stronger, I'll be okay. Trees, plants, bugs, animals, insects are singing with the shaman. His chant is everywhere. Thoughts like stripping naked and shape-shifting into a jaguar seem rational. And then vomiting, defecation, swearing that I've been poisoned and gonna die. Absolute total chaos as the entirety of the webbing of my psyche and history was coming apart. And anything I was looking at had no familiarity, because if a bush is talking to you real time, and the insect and the birds are talking to you, and you're looking in the river and you see big water beast things swimming in the river, eyes wide open, you cannot relate it to a normal experience of reality. And then I went into a swirling wormhole of insanity. And in it was the entirety of what had been my life. terrifyingly scary in a way that I don't even know how to put into words. Every single person, whether I had just passed by him in a mall, anybody I'd ever driven past in traffic, the interconnectedness of Earth itself, the interrelationship of family and friends, every experience I'd ever had, positive and negative, was there. And I knew if I got sucked into it, that I would not ever come out. Like complete disc defrag of the brain. Really to like the level of soul itself, like the true essence of being just alive. Thousands and thousands of visions at the same time. So much so that all I could do was lie in the now mud created by my sweat and vomit. I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die of just exhaustion. I can't go on. And then at that moment, literally the shaman walks over to me and he blew the tobacco smoke over my body, these huge puffs of tobacco smoke 3 times. And then I hear this voice that screams out of the darkness, purge. A small lemon-sized physical object coming out of my mouth that then lost its form as it was on the ground and then ultimately disappeared into the earth. And when that came out of me, all of the crazy visions, all of the intense speed of the experience was gone. Everything was light, everything was stars, everything was brilliant. And everybody that had been part of my life was there. Relatives were there, ancestors were there. So like angelic figures, light beings. And in that vision, including the plants themselves, they were all congratulatory and telling me that I had found my apprenticeship. At that point, then the ceremony came to an end with me in the dirt.
So, how would you describe the difference between the person that went into that and the person that came out?
I literally ended the experience back in a hammock, praying to not defecate the hammock. This looked like an absolute impossibility. And so to be told that I had found my apprenticeship and that my apprenticeship was going to be there, I'm like, well, what do you mean learn how to live here? There's only like 8 families and then this native tribe. And then you're that upriver, there's no one.
I went to college in Boulder. You went from a fantasy of what this would be and you had no other position to be in. You go there and you have a complete transformation, but you're saying as soon as you pop out of it, the flag is planted in the ground of reality. And here's your reality. Shit, I'm in the middle of myself. I'm about to shit my hammock, and I don't know how to basically cook bread in the Amazon.
I knew how to hold a tennis racket. I knew how to hold a golf club. I knew how to hold a pencil and take a test. So every question of my own disbelief was just met with yes. In my head, like you're doing this.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to live here.
Yeah.
Well, what? People are just going to give me land?
Yeah.
What, the locals are going to let me live here?
Yeah.
I have to learn how to speak their dialect and their language.
Yeah.
Really? like I'm a shamanic apprentice out here.
Yeah.
So I needed to figure out how to live in Peru. I needed to figure out how to pay for my experience to be there. So on the way back with the guide, I tell the guide of my vision, and the guide offers me business partnership to do jungle trekking with more tourists out to that area.
The map that you're using doesn't look like the map in the past, but there's still a map. You're saying I'm making sense of this because I get up every day and there's agreement to show up, work around this idea of shamanism, and it's working. You're getting confirmation each and every day. Was the role of the question and doubting, is that how you were getting comfort? Considering what you're going through in the leap that you had taken, you're really out there on a limb.
I wasn't in a state seeking it. I was reaching for the mystical. I was reaching for the unknown. Like, I didn't understand why. I didn't understand how. I just fundamentally felt like there was something wrong with reality and that it was something that needed to be opened and seen through. If there were comfort, what it was the confirmation of the next step.
You're talking about a level of devotion and faith.
Total.
Let me put the pin in the map to get kind of the transitions here. So, big leap, come out of chaos of culture, into the jungle. You follow guidance, you open up, you pass a couple of different crucible experiences. One of the biggest ones was, sounds like facing your own doubt, being handed off through guidance to deeper and deeper experiences. The big shift moment you said was your first ayahuasca experience, but you come out of that and you're faced with reality, and meaning maybe you had this idea of what the experience was going to be that was unfolding, but on the other side of this great transformation and this kind of like cosmic wash cycle, you have to build a life in the jungle. And I hear a couple things that show up for you: the humility to be open to being taught as a child on the other side of that experience, the willingness to face the unknowns each and every day. And there's a lot of them. You've teased them out. You know, a young man raised in America to understanding what it means to really survive in nature. And there's also a deeper process unfolding in you. This isn't just a joyride. There's a part of you that's stepping into a role. And the role is, I'm going to become an ayahuasca shaman. Where do you start to make sense of what you're going to do with this stuff? How do you get the confirmation to come that far along to where it settles, where you're going, what I'm feeling or the evidence that I have is the signal of some sort of resolution that I'm ready to be this next thing?
Well, it was a day that a mother had brought a very sick baby, very, very sick baby, who was semi-conscious and listless, had not eaten in days. And I had watched the shamans that I was training with heal babies like that with chants. And in that moment, I knew that I could heal the baby, and told the shaman, and he looked at me with ultra skepticism, like, really, dude, really? And I went, yeah. And he goes, show me. And so I grabbed the shikapa and I sang to the child for maybe 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes total. And at the end of that, I blew into its crown and over its back and over its front, the same way I had been shown. And the baby responded back in full health, and within a half an hour was nursing and was not sick from that point on.
So where was the Hamilton Souther that left for the jungle on that plane the day 9/11 hit in that moment?
Gone. That guy had been transformed through a lot of ayahuasca ceremonies by that point. I had taken on the life and the role in the forest. I had embodied it and loved it. And the person that was searching and seeking at that time, you know, had found what he had searched and sought for. So I think that's a natural end to the seeker, and it's a natural beginning to something else. And for me, that was the shaman.
So let's say it's 20 years from now, and you're finishing up a ceremony. Transformation is happening. You're in the middle of it all. You're taking some time for yourself afterwards, and 4 kids show up. Let's just say they're 4 kids from a guest that decided to bring their children up, but they'd been out playing, and they come to you and they say, "Hey, we've been hearing about this idea of like living a good life, and we have no idea what that means." What would you tell them?
I think you have to embrace and embody your heart. And I think that leads to a very dualistic life. And good is its own state. It's not just good or bad. And so I think to really embody the goodness of that life requires the use of the heart in a very real way, in a way that many of us have not been taught. And then the willingness to embrace love and be open to love for self, for someone else, for partnership, for family, for a role that you have that's larger than yourself. So I would tell them to embrace their heart and not be scared of it, and to allow it to express through their imagination, and that would provide them that state that you're describing as goodness.
Hamilton Souther, thank you very much for being on the show.
It's been a real pleasure. Thank you to everybody who listens. It's been an unbelievable experience, and I love sharing it. So thank you so much.
All right, folks, that's a wrap. If you enjoyed the episode, please leave a review on whatever platform you're listening to. This just helps put it in the hands of the people likely to get something out of it. If you'd like to dig a little deeper and see what we got cooking here at TOOWi Media, you can visit our website at TOOWiMedia.com. Wishing you grace to fill your sails today. Stay great in the meantime, and I'll see you on the next Pioneers of Insight.
I was reaching for the mystical. I was reaching for the unknown. Felt like there was something wrong with reality and that it was something that needed to be opened and seen through.